here we go. The first thing I want to say about this truck is I have had an absolute blast. I've now owned it for a little over 2 weeks, 2 weeks and 1 day to be precise. Today is Christmas Eve. I've been out here doing some work for my niece on a Christmas present that I built for her, and wanted to take a quick minute to go ahead and get a video up about the Slash now that I've had it for a couple weeks. In the 2 weeks I've owned it, I've probably put about 20 battery packs through this. I have put nickel metal, the battery that came with it, and I've put LiPo packs through it. We'll talk about some of that in the next video when we talk about some of the accessories that you're going to want to buy with one of these. But I probably put 20 packs through it. I've driven it here at the house. I've driven it at the house here with some taller grass. I've driven it with shorter grass. I've driven it with on the pavement at work. We have a parking lot that nobody uses, giant wide open parking lot, so I've driven it on asphalt. And now I've had a chance to drive it at the track quite a few times at my local hobby shop. So I've got a pretty good impression from driving it on all surfaces. So next thing we're going to do here is go ahead and break down the different places that I've driven it and what I've done with it, and kind of what works and what doesn't work. Alright, so first we'll talk about driving it here at the house. I bought this knowing that 99% of the time I drove it was going to be here at my house, on my property, in my backyard, the part of my acreage that I actually maintain and mow. And I knew that was where I was going to drive it. So that's where I've spent most of my drive time with this truck. And I got to tell you, being it's two-wheel drive, if you're willing to keep your lawn mowed short, and when I say short, I'm talking ½ inch or shorter than that, you're going to have a blast with this thing just driving around in your yard. Hopefully you have a little bit of space, because I will tell you, I'm sitting on, I maintain 2 acres in my backyard. So I've got 2 acres to take this thing and rip it around and have a blast with it. If you live in a small neighborhood and you've got a tight backyard, you're not going to be able to get the good use out of this in your yard that you would want to. You're going to have to take it to a park or somewhere else, which, you know, hopefully you have something available where you can. I'm not telling you not to buy it. I'm just telling you it's too fast for a small backyard. Having an acre or 2 acres, perfect. I can get out there, I can wind it out. I don't have to, you know, worry about never being able to go full throttle. I don't have to worry about being so tight that I'm going to run into stuff all the time. I have run into things. But it's perfect out here, and I've had an absolute blast with it. Again, you need to keep the grass short. If you go 4-wheel drive, you can probably have a little bit taller grass and not get stuck. But the thicker the grass is, the taller the grass is, the slower your truck's going to go. It's okay to go slow. And I say slow, it's not super slow. It's just slow in respect to what it can actually do if you get it out on pavement, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you really want to take full advantage, you really want to have a good time in your backyard, driving around, jumping off stuff, just general bashing around, as long as your grass is a little bit short and you've got enough space, this thing is perfect. It is an absolute blast. I'm going to show some video later in this session with me in my backyard doing a lot of jumps. I've got a big pile of dirt that we dug out to put my shelter in, storm shelter, Oklahoma. We've got tornadoes, y'all. We dug out, and I just jumping it off this big pile of dirt, and it has been an absolute blast. It flies through the air beautifully. When it lands, it is spectacular. When it crashes, it is even more spectacular. So I had a ton of fun. I have had a single parts breakage here at the house, doing a bunch of jumps. We'll get to that here at the end of this video. But I have not taken it easy on this truck here at the house, and it has withstood the punishment extremely, extremely well. The next place we'll talk about driving it is at my work on the asphalt parking lot. This thing is an absolute rocket ship, even with the brushed motor on asphalt. It is a terror on the asphalt. Here's the problem. It goes so fast, and the suspension is set up for off-road, that if you get out on pavement and you start turning it, if you are not very careful to slow down and take your turn nice and gentle, if you just cut it at speed, it will absolutely immediately start rolling, and it'll just slip and tumble and roll and go all over the place. You can probably see in the video I've got scratches all over this truck, probably from that very thing. Most of the scratches, most of the scrapes, most of the stuff that you'll see are because I took it out in that parking lot and I ripped it all over the place, and I rolled all over the place at full speed. Fortunately, I've never run it full speed into a curb, but I have crashed it all kinds of ways on that asphalt. And it's not difficult to drive on asphalt. You just have to be willing to use the brake. You've got to slow down. You got to be careful when you're turning. So the first time I took it on asphalt, it was really, really rough, and the poor truck got a whole bunch of scrapes and scratches and dings, and you know what? That's what it's there for. It's okay. But it was rough on it. We have a speed bump in that parking lot, so I was ramping that speed bump at full speed. I wish I had some video. I will take some video later of that. It was amazing. But when it crashed coming off that ramp, because it did not always land like it should, sometimes it would nose straight into the ground. It just, man, it tumbles all over the place. So if you're going to take it on asphalt, be very careful. If you have younger children or you're getting this for a younger child, make sure they are very proficient with driving this before you put it out on asphalt or another hard surface or concrete or whatever it is, because it is very, very, very fast. And it's very easy to roll over, and the concrete is much, much harder on the truck in a crash than the grass in your yard would be or the grass in a park would be. So be careful with that if you have a young child. There is a mode in the ESC in here. I haven't used it, but I've seen other people using it at the local track that will actually dial the horsepower back for learners. Definitely something I would suggest the first time somebody takes it out on asphalt. If you're an adult, go out there and have fun, and just know that there's going to be some consequences. You're probably going to crash, and you're probably going to scrape it and scratch it and ding it up. If you got a younger kid, turn that on before you take them to an asphalt parking lot. Protect your stuff, and that way they're going to have a toy they can continue to enjoy for a long period of time. All right, the last place I have taken this to go drive it is at our local track, at the local hobby shop. I'm going to put some video up of that so you guys can kind of see the layout of the track. I will tell you right now, I noticed immediately the difference between two-wheel drive trucks and four-wheel drive trucks. In fact, I was the only one driving a two-wheel drive on that track. Not the only one who does, just the only one on the days I was up there practicing. It is a fishtailing beast. It is really tough to learn to drive this truck on a clay surface. So our track is like a packed clay. It is not a high traction surface. It is pretty slippery. And I will tell you, it took me, the first time I went out there and drove it, it was pretty terrible. But I learned really, really quickly. I got better very, very fast. But I will tell you, when you first started, it was all over the place and it was crazy. It is still, you can still tell a significant difference when you're out there driving around and there's somebody with a four-wheel drive and you're with a two-wheel drive. It's a difference coming out of the corners. We'll talk more about track racing maybe in the next episode or the one after that. So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about the driving at the track. I just want to say that I have driven at the track. It is difficult, but it is a ton of fun. If you're willing to put the time in, and I'd say, a couple hours, maybe 3 hours of actual get on the track and drive and just get real familiar with it. And that's 3 hours of track time, not 3 hours sitting at the track watching other people. Like, you got to be on the track driving it. If you're willing to do that and you really kind of get the hang of that rear-wheel drive, it is tons of fun to hang that back end and swing around the corners as you're fishtailing out. I haven't had a chance to participate in any races yet. Hoping to do that maybe this coming weekend. I'll tell you right now, you put this truck on the track with a race, and if you get pretty good at driving it, people are they're gonna notice it, and it's gonna be pretty impressive because when this thing comes around a corner and it's swinging that back end out, boy, it's a little bit scary. I don't think anybody's gonna be trying to pass you in the corners. They're gonna try to get you in the straights because this thing takes up about the whole corner when it swings the backside out there. So, ton of fun to drive at the track. Ton of fun to drive at home on the grass and do all kinds of crazy jumps. And yes, there are jumps at the track, and just a ton of fun to drive, even on asphalt, as long as you're careful. All right, last thing I want to talk to you all about is durability. This truck, I put about 20 packs through it. I have jumped it off everything I can find at my house. I've jumped it off everything I can find in the parking lot. I've run across all kinds of jumps at the track. I've run full speed into the concrete center block wall of the track. I have jumped it at the track and been crooked and jumped it straight into a wall. This thing is durable. I have not changed anything on this truck other than adjusting the suspension that came with it. I have not replaced a single part except one thing that I broke, and it's inside of this truck. I'm going to do a separate video on the piece that I broke so I can show y'all what it is. But let me just say, it's the little piece that the antenna holder goes into. It was very simple to fix. It cost me, I think, about $15 total to replace the parts, and that includes the new straw that I bought for my antenna. It was not expensive. The local hobby shop had the parts in stock. again, another reason why supporting a local hobby shop is important. Otherwise, I would have had to order that stuff, and I wouldn't have been able to drive the truck for 2 or 3 days while I waited for it to show up. Local hobby shop had it in stock. Took me very little time to get it fixed. Super easy to get in there and work on it, and had an absolute blast with it. Really, again, that's the one thing that broke. It cost me very little. It was easy to fix. Otherwise, guys, I haven't deliberately crashed this truck. I haven't deliberately tried to go abuse it, but I have used it as hard as I think you could use it. And it has just taken it and kept on going. So these things are very durable. Do not, if you're worried about durability on one of these things, if you're worried about maybe you've got a younger kid and you're worried about giving them something that's this fast because they're going to wreck it and ruin it and crash it, trust me when I tell you, this thing is very, very durable. There is a learning mode on this. You should take advantage of that when you're teaching a new kid to drive it, but it's extremely durable. I've driven it very hard, at least 20 packs through it, and I have not broken a single thing. So, knock on wood, I'm not going to break any more parts anytime soon, but really, I guess I shouldn't say I haven't broken a single thing. I did break the one piece. Cheap, easy, no problem to fix, man, I can't speak enough about the durability of this truck. It's been an absolute riot, and it is a tank. It is tough. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to cut away to some driving footage so y'all get the chance to take a look at the truck out there, actually driving around, doing some jumps, all that kind of stuff. So appreciate y'all hanging out, checking it out. If you have questions, comments, throw them in the section below. If there's anything else you want to see that you're not seeing or that I haven't covered yet, let me know about it. I'll be happy to take care of it for you. Thanks, y'all. Okie Ironhead, out.